Let's go. We are live. Excited to talk about UFC 302. We're going to get right into it. Quick shout out to the chat. Good luck. Have fun. Love it. Thanks for being here, Kardik. Let's go. Jordan telling it like it is. Chef D. You guys got to check out this channel. He's got some of the best NBA and NFL advice and picks, breakdowns for DFS and straight betting. He's awesome. It's called Mets, Nets, Jets D, I believe. It's my boy from New York. Let's go, Milton. Appreciate you. UFC Parlay God, telling it like it is. Appreciate you. We got Brasco Bets from the Action Network. My guy, appreciate you. We got Micah Haas, a great pro fighter. He just won the belt on the regional circuit. He's about to be on either Ultimate Fighter or Contender Series. We sponsor him. Love this guy. He's amazing. Rhett bringing the heat. The Curse of Costa. This is interesting. Every card that Paulo Costa's ever been on with the champ, I think they lost or something wild, but like 7 champs: Aldo and Bisping, Ioane and Jacek, Stipe, then DC, and Usman and Volkanovski all lost the belt on cards that he was on. Pretty interesting. I hope Islam doesn't lose tonight. Alex, thank you. My guy Casey, thank you. Antonio. Antonio. He's on the diamond. J1K Flow, appreciate you. All right, let's go. Well, let's get right into it. So I'll start by saying I'm on Islam. I've actually got like 12 units of parlays on Islam and then a couple risky props, which I'll show you. We're going to go over every single one. We got to remember, think, if take the last fight out, take the last devastating head kick knockout over Volkanovski, short notice, partying Volkanovski, not the best Volkanovski we've seen, right? Just not too long ago, people were picking Volkanovski over Islam in the rematch because we saw that Islam couldn't really finish him on the ground, susceptible on the feet, seemed to fade, right? And now one head kick later, everyone's kind of forgotten about all those concerns, right? Islam's great. Trust me. We've been on Islam forever. We know how dominant he is. His striking is improving. He's got to be all the way in or all the way out here. He's fine at kicking range, and he's going to be great in the clinch range. Obviously, he just needs to stay out of that boxing range where Dustin's so good. We can look at some recent, I've got some Mexican loggers here that have got me burping. So dash into the pocket in the almost like a head clash type of situation there, so he kind of thrives on that. He's willing to do that. He wants to crash that distance like that, but Dustin's going to have his opportunities to counter him here for sure, right? So what else do we know? Dustin's got great finishing ability. He's susceptible to rear naked chokes, especially in the title matches. I think it's kind of interesting that Islam's even talked about that. Islam's such a funny guy, but he's talked about how he's trying to work on something different. If we check out his Instagram right here, you can see that the most recent thing he posts is him training his guillotine offense. He said in interviews that he doesn't want to rear naked choke Dustin again because that's easy to do, right? Everyone rear naked chokes him. Khabib did and Charles did, right? And he's working on something different. Turns out this is what he was referring to, the guillotine. It's plus 600 on BetMGM. And I think it would be kind of funny if Islam was able to finish Dustin with his own move, right? I'm not the first person to think of this. There's memes about this already. Lots of people are talking about how Islam's going to try to guillotine Dustin. I think at plus 600, it's worth a play just for, the culture. You got to do it. I do think if they fought 7 times, sure, he could guillotine him one time out of those 7 fights, and that's all we need for the plus 600 to pay off. But I also played the Darce. Let's see what they are here. All right, so the guillotine plus 600 for a full unit. The Darce choke plus 2,500 for a quarter unit. It pays like six units and change. The Ninja choke will pay 25 units if it hits. Anaconda choke pays like 12.5 units if it hits. and the twister. So originally, before all this footage came out of him training the guillotine, I was like, he's going to hit a twister. Tell me that Islam is not going to, if they fought 21 times, like, what is this, 201 times, he could hit a twister one time out of 201 fights. He's going to have the back. Dustin gives up his back to everybody. Even Benoit had it last fight. I think, tell me why Islam can't hit a twister here. I think he could. Islam's, got pretty good striking defense, right? Like the knockout against Adriana Martins, it's going to happen. It was just a devastating kick, and that's going to knock anybody out. So, can't really knock him too bad there. Let's take a peek. We're going to watch this under the Fair Use Act. Oh, yeah, the right hook. I'm thinking of the Sean Strickland, Elizeu, Zaleski, Dos Santos. Yeah, just an incredible kind of check counter right overhand there as Islam is approaching in with this kind of sloppy entry there, right? So there's the red flags. Again, if you think back to the Islam just one fight ago where people are picking Volk against him, tell me Dustin's not going to have his chances here, right? I think he's going to. Dustin's just an absolute legend, got a ton of accolades, third in KOs in UFC history as a lightweight and a former featherweight. That's wild. He's landed 14 knockdowns. That's fifth all time. He's going to be just really smooth in the pocket here. Like, even though he's got all those KOs, Dustin is not historically like just a one punch KO power guy, right? He's more of an attritional guy. Everything he does is smooth and like a dance. He's got so much rhythm. He's just so smooth in there, composed. He's fought all the biggest punchers in his divisions ever. He's fought all the most aggressive, powerful boxers, Conor and Gaethje, you name it. And he's always composed in there, just always one step ahead, never rattled. Great grit. He's taken tons of low kick damage and fought through it, like against Gaethje. He's got the veteran wiles to get out of some tricky situations, right? Like, he's had his back taken too much for us to rave about his jiu-jitsu or anything too much, right? But like Michael Chandler was gonna take his back, and at the very last second, Dustin, with a very smooth little just movement to get the foot off him, lands on top, ends up finishing Chandler just moments later. Just such veteranship, such poise and composure, and you gotta love Dustin, right? So we all know he drops for the guillotine all the time. One thing that I noticed in the Benoit Saint-Denis fight was at least he stopped falling for it so much. He wasn't just dropping straight down for it like he was prior in previous fights, right? We're always seeing him fish for the gilly, right? Don't be silly, fish for the gilly. And at least he adjusted his positioning and stayed high and heavy against Benoit, stopped falling to his back for it. Shout out to Liam Fights Picks for giving an even more eloquent description of it. It was actually an adjustment in the grip by Dustin as well. And so I like to see that evolution in his guillotine game at 35 or whatever he is. Yeah, 35 here. So 16 KOs across his career. He's been subbed 3 times and KO'd 3 times. Islam with 5 KO wins and 11 sub wins. So I think, we know these fighters so well. I don't have too much to add. I'll mention that Southpaw versus Southpaw, Dustin's fought a ton of them and done great against them. Islam hasn't fought that many. One that he did fight was Gleison Tibau, and he just absolutely melted him. But Dustin's going to have his opportunities to throw lots of low kicks here. Islam's got to be careful. I've got Islam in a ton of parlays. Most of them are attached to Peyton Talbot. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about that, but I've got like 20 units on Peyton Talbot already at minus 455. I think by the time he fights Giannis Gamori in a couple months or month or whatever, he's going to be like minus 900 or maybe worse. It might be quadruple digits. I'm not really the hedging or cash out type ever. Certainly not cash out, but I'm not even really the hedge type. But I do have the intention to hedge a little bit on Giannis at the last minute when the odds are just wild. And so anyway, but I'm intended to have a ton on Peyton Talbot until they move that line. It's still currently minus 455, and I've got like 20 plus units on it already, with some things that have already hit, some things on this card. Islam is in 12 units of parlays already, and then I've got the 2 units on those 5 risky exact methods that we talked about, right? All right, moving on. Strickland and Costa. I'm on Strickland here. If we just look at the level of competition, I mean, it's arguable that Sean should still be champion right now. A lot of people think that he could have won that Dreykus fight. It was the damage, the cut, the bigger just moments, the bigger overhands, and of course, a couple takedowns for Dreykus that got it done for him there. But, Sean did, of course, put up a very good performance here. One of the best things we all know about Sean is his cardio. And Paulo Costa doesn't have absolutely terrible cardio, but it's really not champion level. He often falls off in the second half of 3-round fights. And of course, this is a 5-round fight right here, right? We could talk all day about Sean's style and skills, and we could talk all day about both these guys. But I think it's pretty simple here. Like, Costa's going to have bigger moments. He loves to rip hooks to the body. He's got great combination. He mixes knees and kicks in. He keeps it technical, even though powerful, right? Like, he mixes in jabs and hooks. He's smothering and vicious without being super sloppy or looping. He's got great technique, great footwork and speed for such like a hulking guy, right? Very good technician. He's got great kicks, diverse kicks, spinning kicks, everything, you name it. And last time out, he actually almost finished Robert Whittaker with the spinning heel kick that had him, on chicken legs in round 1. But in that fight, like in many fights, Paulo kind of just gassed, right? Like, it was probably 1-1 after 2, and then round 3, Bobby just cruised because Paulo was gassed. Before that, he fought Luke Rockhold, was busting him up. Round 3, Luke Rockhold's on top, blowing blood all over him from his nose. It was disgusting and amazing, and it was only because Paulo was gassed, as he often is. Yoel Romero, and a crazy, incredible round 1. Paulo getting the better of it probably. They both just kind of gassed, but that was a crazy round 1. You could forgive them for gassing there. The good thing about Paulo, I'm just railing on his cardio here, right? But he doesn't like fall off a cliff completely. He doesn't fuck that. He doesn't like give up. He doesn't become irresponsible defensively. He still stays pretty safe and sound defensively. He still moves his head. He's always got his head off the center line. He keeps good footwork. So he doesn't give up. He doesn't fall off a cliff. He doesn't start taking terrible takedowns and getting subbed. He doesn't get knocked out. Just the problem when he gasses is that his volume, combinations, and power, which were in takedown defense, which were really good early in the fight, those do fall off. He can get taken down in the second half of the fight where he doesn't in the first. And in the first round where he's just landing vicious combos on everybody, that falls off. So, right. So it's better than some guys. It's not like, the worst cardio in the world where people get finished and you always have to bet round 2 props against them. It's certainly not like that. I kind of have a Sean round 5 KO prop on my mind. I don't know if I'll get there, but I've got Sean in just like a small 2-unit parlay. I'll probably have him in another risky parlay or 2. Pretty confident in Sean here. I think Paulo's kind of round 1 KO or bust here, even though I do like Paulo a lot. Great skills. Yeah, 78% of Tapologies on Strickland, and money's coming in on him. He was like minus 190. Now he's like minus 230. On this card where you got Islam on there, he's a big favorite in the main event. You're going to get just so many it's a pay-per-view. You're going to get so many parlay bettors. So many people are going to be looking for parlay legs. All these parlay legs are probably going to get steamed, except for a couple that we called out earlier in the week as pretty wide lines. I'll tell you now, Jocelyn Edwards fight, money's come in on Jocelyn, the underdog. And no, I'm not going to remember it. Oh, the Alex Morono fight. When it came out, he was like minus 300, and we wrote in the write-up, we'll talk about it more, but we thought that was a wide line. He was just minus 300 against Court McGee, and it was a darn close fight, and money's coming on Nico Price. So Nico and Jocelyn are underdogs that have seen some action so far, and the bookies are respecting it and moving the line. Other than that, like a lot of these favorites are going to get steamed, it seems. All right. Next up, a banger of a fight, Kevin Holland versus Lord Michał Oleksiejczuk. We saw Oleksiejczuk lose fast last time to Michel Pereira. It was a straight right to the body, and then some really nice body knees that had Oleksiejczuk hurt bad, and then of course Pereira choked him out with a rear naked choke there in round one. Before that, so like there's kind of this narrative that he wilts, he can't take any damage. I think there's some recency bias there, because just the fight prior against Chidi Njokuani, he took a ton of damage. It was a very back and forth fight. He showed incredible like grit and cardio there, incredible heart. He was really impressive. It was a very back and forth fight, like fight of the year candidate type stuff. And he came through, hurt Chidi multiple times, landed on top. He did good in the grappling exchanges there. Some really good stuff by Oleksiejczuk in that Chidi win. It was like a fight of the year candidate. Before that, we know that the Caio Borrello fight, like it was very dominant. Caio sometimes doesn't finish guys that you really think is going to finish, and he was able to get the round 2 finish there against Caio, over Oleksiejczuk. So we've seen some bad moments from Oleksiejczuk, but overall he's like a stud. Just got some great skills, good power. Former light heavyweight, he was certainly an undersized light heavyweight, but there's a lot to like about him. It's interesting that like the body damage that we've seen him take and have trouble with multiple times, that is a skill for Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's like really got powerful body knees, right? And a lot of great stuff that he can do, like straight body shots, knees and kicks, right? And good in the clinch. So I think there is the potential that Kevin Holland could hurt him with a body knee. Kevin's got great skills. He's super fun. Sometimes he's made some questionable decisions, like taking Brendan Allen down or letting Wonder Boy up. But overall, he's just such a stud. He's diverse in the striking, but also in the grappling. He loves to try to get Darce chokes and diverse front chokes. And, Oleksiejczuk's been subbed 5 times. I was hoping that the Kevin Holland, like I thought I was going to get to a risky prop here. Round 2 or round 3, Kevin Holland submissions. But I'm not going to get there. The sub prop is barely more juicy than the KO line. The decision line is the most juicy of the 3. I think this fight could go the distance. It's 5 straight fights for Oleksiejczuk that have ended inside the distance, and 3 of the last 5 for Kevin. So across their last 10 fights, 8 have gone the distance. But I don't know. These are middleweights. They're going to go the distance about 50% of the time. I'd be careful on those inside the distance props. I think this fight could go a lot of different ways, but I do think Kevin's going to end up getting the better of it. So we'll see how it goes. I do have Kevin in a small 2-unit parlay. I'm not going to be too heavy on him, but I think Kevin's just better everywhere, essentially. A little longer, fights long, probably more durability for Kevin too. We know great cardio for Kevin, and we've seen some issues for Oleksiejczuk in the cardio department for sure. Like, he's been able to fight off takedowns early, looks good in the grappling in round 1, and then falls off a cliff. The grappling specifically gasses him. I doubt that Kevin's going to grapple with him, as we know, but I'd have to give Kevin the cardio edge, right? So Kevin gets almost every edge available in this fight, in my opinion. All right, next up, a really good one, banger. I've been a Romanov fan for a long time. Like when we first started making predictions, Romanov was just getting into the UFC, and he was so fun. He's got the great slams at distance. He throws crazy kicks to try and close the distance. He has obviously the King Kong ground and pound, and he's landed multiple forearm choke submission wins. Like it's crazy. He landed one, in the UFC, which we'll talk about. So there's like a lot of fun stuff to like about Romanov. The problem was, as we know, his cardio just falls off a cliff, right? And so we were a rare, expert on like Marcin Tybura against him. We were on Volkov. Alexander Volkov was an underdog there. And we were very confident there and hammered that. And I think Romanov, like, we just have a really good read on his skills and his abilities. If you're decent on the ground and you have decent cardio, you're for sure going to beat Romanov. And it's safe to say Jailton's definitely got decent cardio and decent ground game. I do like the TKO prop here. think we played it at plus 420. Yeah. And for a while, I've been on Jailton round 2, round 3, as opposed to the round 1. You know, like when he had so much hype, he came into the UFC, he's getting all these early finishes. Everyone just wants to round 1, play the round 1, similar to Bo Nickel and how we did really well playing some overs against Cody Brundage last fight. I've been just waiting to cash on their round 2s and stuff, right? I really thought it was going to cash round 2 stuff on Jailton against Derek Lewis, but he like chose to go to a decision there. But just overall, a lot of people are going to bet and always do bet. They always bet Jailton round 1, and it's not that easy. Even when he does get a finish in round 1, it's like very late. He wasn't able to get Shamil out of there in round 1. Shamil just absolutely bench pressed him off of him one time and got up. This narrative, and just like when we imagine Jailton, we imagine him just going in there and finishing people in like 90 seconds, and that's really not the reality. I'm pretty confident Romanov's going to make it for at least a round and get finished in round 2 or round 3. And Jailton he's started leaning more towards ground and pound than fishing for the rear naked choke. Let's see here. Yeah, Romanov like doesn't really get submitted when he loses. He gets TKO'd. He got TKO'd against Volkov, and where a lot of guys, Volkov's just on the back, kind of ground and pounding him out from back mount. You can read more about it here. A lot of guys roll. They keep defending. They roll to their back, then they roll back to their belly, and they're doing anything they can to just not give up. They don't want the ref to stop it. They're afraid the ref's going to stop it, so they just keep moving. Romanov, when he's tired, he's just going to lay there and wait for the ref to stop it. I think it's more likely that he gets TKO'd here than that he gets submitted here. And the odds are way juicier on the TKO prop. So we played Jailton TKO for a full unit, and then 4 other half unit bets on the round 2 KO 1,500, round 3 KO 2,500, and then just good old fashioned round 2 and round 3. If Jailton wins by round 1 submission, I'm screwed. If he chooses to go to another decision like he did against Derek Lewis, I'm screwed, but I don't care because I've got Jailton in 5 units worth of parlays at minus 278, like in the Peyton Talbot parlays. So, I just need Jailton to come through here, but I'm really confident and excited about these round 2, round 3 KO props. I'm going to have way more action than this so far, but this is all I've gotten to, as props continue to come out this week. Anything else to say about Romanov? He's fun. He's really fun. I like both these guys. I'm a little salty with Jailton for his last 2 fights, but he's amazing. I think he's for sure going to gas Romanov. The only way he loses here is like Travis Brown elbows. Oh, I knew I was forgetting something. So I really do. I don't like to bet the yam bags all the time. Shout out to Lou Betcha and Monk. I love their show every week. And so, shout out to them. Let's talk about a quick yam bag. There's so many ingredients here for a yam bag, right? Like they fight at different stances, a gas bag. Romanov's gonna gas. In so many fights, in Jailton fights, there's this weird position against the cage where like the opponent's on their knees against the cage. They can't resist but grab the cage while Jailton's like kind of clutching at their knees from behind, kind of like on the back. And it's happened in multiple fights. It's a really unique position where, talk about it right here. They get to their knees with their hands on the cage, trying to stand up. It's happened like three times. Nasruddin was grabbing it. Happened with Turkali. And Shamil also grabbed the fence, but in a different position. I think Romanov is going to do all of the above. Grab all of the following. He's going to grab the cage for sure. He's going to land a low kick for sure. He's going to eye poke for sure. My God, I can't believe how much he was sticking out his fingers against Blagoy last fight. And then what are the other? Oh, he's also going to probably throw a 12-6 elbow while he's got his back against the cage when he should throw a Travis Brown elbow. He's probably going to throw a 12-6 elbow. And on the 4th of these various 4 fouls, he's going to get a point deducted. I think it's pretty darn likely that at least if they fought 21 times, the point deduction is plus 2,000. If they fought 21 times, I think Romanov gets a point deducted in one of those 21 fights. Um, I might end up playing that. You could pop $5 on it and win $100. Normally, the lowest that I put it on, even on crazy props, is like a quarter unit or a half unit. So we'll see. I might get there. All right. Speaking of point deductions, like this fight could see it. We see Randy Brown foul a handful of times. We've seen cage grabs in his fights, low kicks. But overall, I'm on Randy Brown here. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos has been crushing it lately. Renat had a ton of hype, smothering Russian wrestler. And Renat almost got finished by Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos in round 3. It ended up being a draw because it was such a dominant round 3 for EZDS. He's like 37, I believe, but still got pretty solid cardio. He's been impressive, looking good. Abubakar Nurmagomedov, that was a pretty close fight. There's some questionable decision making from EZDS continuing to choose to grapple with Abubakar, and every time it was like ending up better for Abubakar Nurmagomedov than it was for EZDS. So some questionable decision making there, and then also against Renat, like at the end of the fight, he's got Renat super hurt. He needs to make Renat stand up, but he jumps on top of him. He might have got the finish late in round 3 if he just made Renat get up. But like, recent hype train, everybody's darling, everyone picking him over Dustin Poirier minus 250 or whatever favorite against Dustin Poirier. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos just battered that guy. Like, people rave about Benoit's durability. It's because of this absolute beating that he took. EZDS is no bum here. It's just that Randy Brown is pretty solid. Like, Elizeu could catch him. We've seen Randy hurt multiple times, wobbled, even the last fight, or even a handful of fights back against Nico Price. Like, there was lots of durability concerns. And then the Vicente Luque fight too. Like, we were starting to worry about the durability in that range, right? But he's looked better. He's a little smarter. And I think he's going to get it done here. He's got a more diverse skill set. He's got great striking defense unless he gets sloppy. Good submission game as well, but I don't think he's going to submit Elizeu. It could, I think it's going to play out on the feet. So I think if Dos Santos gets him, it's definitely inside the distance. I think he could KO him or club and sub him, but I think Rude Boy's going to win a decision there. Let's just look real quickly at what Tapology thinks. Yeah, 72% of them on Rude Boy. It's a tough fight though. Like, Elizeu is such a stud. Not to be too accusatory or anything, but like, we are in the post USADA era. We've seen a lot of veterans have a resurgence lately, and 2024 is the year of the washed veteran resurgence. And EZDS, he ain't even washed. So we could see, the best version of him that we've seen in a few years. It's something we've seen in 2024 for sure. We got Randy in a 2-unit parlay. It's probably all I'll have on him. Not overly confident, but I think he gets it done. Next fight up, a really fun one. This is a good card. We had some canceled fights that would have been great. The third fight on the whole card is, Kevin Holland versus Paulo Costa fight. 2 guys coming off a loss. Like, or no, I'm sorry. Who's Kevin fighting? Jesus Christ. Oh yeah, Oleksiejczuk. Like, this is the third fight on the card. They both are coming off pretty like dominant losses. So like, a lot of people are talking crap about this card, but there's just banger after banger here. So really excited about it. Next one here, Roman Kopylov. I do think Roman's going to get it done. I've never been too high on César. He's got great power, tons of hype behind him because he's beaten Alex Pereira in kickboxing. If you want to watch these 3 fights, they're right here. This whole article is in the description already. You can check out this whole article and read along, watch all these fights. Like, all of these are links to Fight Tape. You got the stats, you got their Instagram right here, right? So if you want to watch those old kickboxing fights against Alex Pereira, they're right down here. But generally speaking, I think César's a tiny bit overrated. You know, he had a suspect ground game back in the past, but he's been at Fight Ready and Extreme Couture, and we've seen it improve. And the grappling doesn't gas him either. It's not like he just has good takedown defense in round one and then fades. His takedown defense stays strong for the first couple rounds. Like Fernando was able to have some wrestling success against him, but then not in round two. Last time out, Dylan Budka was able to have some success in round one, but then got finished in round two. So his ground game is improving, and it doesn't gas him, and that's such a key. We know he's got incredible low kicks. He's got multiple low kick KOs. He's a stud, right? But Roman Kopilov's younger with way more experience, longer reach, and I think he's going to get it done here. I've got one little play on Roman Kopylov, 1 unit. Beat a little bit of line movement, but that doesn't ever mean anything. All right. Next up, Grant Dawson. I put on Twitter like weeks ago, I was like, how is Grant Dawson only minus 250 here? You got a lot of people saying, oh, they're the same fighter. UFC Parlay God, everybody, thanks for being here. No worries, Elias, thank you. Let's go. Yeah, good luck. I'm glad we got UFC back here this weekend. A lot of people are saying like they're the same fighter, which I get. They kind of are the same fighter, right? But I just think Grant Dawson's a little bit better at everything. Joe Solecki's got great transitions, just really good jiu-jitsu. When he gets you down, he's going to pass guard. He's going to get your back. He's got great back takes. On the feet, Solecki looks decent. He's got like a really long, wide, low stance. He moves his head off the center line, and he's always looking pretty good in there. But then he kind of gets stuck in the sand in the pocket. He's got great head movement on the outside, but then when it matters, when he gets inside, he loses his footwork. He doesn't get backwards very fast. He gets in pretty fast. He gets side to side pretty fast, but he can't get out of the pocket very fast. And there's a lot of times where he's stuck in the pocket, just leaning with his hands down and his head straight up. And we've seen Solecki get popped multiple times doing that. He's struggled to hold guys down unless you're like Carl Deaton, then he holds you down for 10 minutes and gets a finish. He's on a 5-2 run, but it's against the very bottom of the division. So Solecki's got good skills, not terrible anywhere, but some durability concerns, striking defense concerns. And if he can't finish you pretty early, like it a lot of times doesn't go well. Check out some of his previous fights here. Alex da Silva, that fight was really entertaining, really fun, actually. And it was very close. Obviously, it was a majority decision, so it goes without saying that it was close. But, Alex is only 1-3 in the UFC. Just Solecki's in there just looking comfortable. It's like he's looking good. Boom, knocked down. It's only been 15 seconds into the fight, and he gets knocked down by a nice left hook. He was fine on top. Alex da Silva was on top of Joe Solecki with no threat of a submission at all. He rode out a lot of top time there. Joe ends up going for a guillotine. It was pretty deep, and it creates a scramble, but Alex got out and stayed on top. In round two, Solecki got the offensive wrestling going, gets him down, gets the back, gets the body triangle, threatens a rear naked choke, but Alex survives. But nice job by Joe once he was able to get on top. He wasn't able to get off his back in round one, but nice job in coming back offensively round two. In round three, Alex is blasting him. Joe's taking terrible shots, landing on bottom. I thought Alex da Silva won that fight. And that's not a great look, right? So Joe Solecki's on a winning streak. It's against the very bottom of the division. Some questionable decisions in there. And last time out, he got slam KO'd. He's going for an armbar, and Drakkar Klose slams him on the side of his head. It wasn't like, Rampage slamming Carlos Newton on the back of his head. He slammed Joe Solecki right on his temple. It was a pretty sick knockout. And if you recall, I think it was Sam Reese got one right after that. Or maybe it's like Tom Reese. Yeah, Tom Reese. I'm on Grant Dawson here. I got him in a handful of parlays at minus 250. Let's see. 7 units of parlays on Grant Dawson at minus 250. That's definitely all that I will have on him going forward. All right. Phil Rowe, Jake Matthews. I'm on the dog here. Phil Rowe, I bet him for 2 units at plus 130. I think he's just better, longer, decent cardio. He's got decent durability, decent striking defense, unless he gets totally lazy like he did against Nico Price. I think he just didn't have any respect for Nico's power. This was, when Nico was pretty fresh coming back off a knee surgery, and Nico would land on him and Phil barely felt it. So Phil just got like irresponsible. In round 3, Nico ends up landing some really, really nice shots and almost getting him out of there. Had Phil pretty hurt, but I think it was just because Phil had no respect for the power. Like I said, as long as he's not being just sloppy like that, he's got pretty good striking defense. I think he actually won his last fight against Neil Magny. Very close fight with Neil getting a little better of the cage grappling, but Phil Rowe getting the better of the striking there. I'm on the Fresh Prince. A lot of his finishes come in the second or the third round. Like Phil Rowe round 2 props and Phil Rowe round 3 props have been just making people a lot of money if you've been on those. So that's something to look at. I might get there, but Jake Matthews is pretty durable. I think this is probably going to be a decision. Jake Matthews is a little bit hard to predict. He's lost as a huge favorite. He's won as a big underdog. But overall, I think we got a pretty good gauge on his skills. I think these guys are pretty similar. And I think it stays on the feet and Phil busts him up to a decision. Let's see here what Tapology thinks. Yeah, 59% of voters on Matthews. I'll mention you get a lot of Tapology voters in like Ireland, Scotland, Australia. A lot of times like, wow, this fight's crazy. Tapology voters. Why is it? It's because they're from some country where a lot of people chill on Tapology. So take it with a grain of salt. But that is true. That we do see that on who else? Canada. Canada fighters get a lot of Tapology love. I'll tell you that. All right. Next one up, Nico Price, Alex Morono, 2 studs, 2 veterans. When these write-ups first come out, they're just like 1 sentence each. It's kind of like this bottom part. And it was like, I don't know how Alex Morono was minus 300 when he was just minus 300 against Court McGee and looked like shit, had people sweating. I like Morono a lot. He's smart. He's a cool guy. He's a coach. He's got pretty good fight IQ. He's well-rounded, but he always just comes in to bang. He's got kind of a funny, like hoppy, bouncy style on the feet, but entertaining, super cool guy, super respectful to his opponents. And I just always been an Alex Morono fan. Pretty gritty. Sometimes he's taken some huge damage, but still gritted through it and made it to a decision against some of the biggest punchers in the division. Overall, we've seen him fading a little bit. It's his cardio is just always kind of a concern. We've kind of seen it bounce back and forth, to be honest. Sometimes it looks great, but sometimes it doesn't. He's 6-2-0-1 as a UFC favorite. Basically 6-2-0 as a UFC favorite. So that's pretty good. But money is coming on Price. Since we wrote that we were surprised he was minus 300. Now Morono is only like minus 2 something. A lot of people will just talk about Nico's unusual finishing ability, and it's true. He does. He's got up kick knockouts, hammer fist from bottom knockouts. Like we know the hybrid, the wild man that is Nico Price. But in his last couple fights since coming back from that knee surgery, I think his power is kind of gone. He doesn't really get any torque or twist, any hips or feet into his punches. Again, he had Phil Rowe hurt in round 3. But it was like all arm punches on the very kind of sloppy defensively, Phil, as I said. I think this fight probably goes the distance. Nico's got pretty good durability. He's actually been finished a lot, but finished 6 times in his 7 losses and KO'd 5 of those times. But it's against some pretty powerful punchers, right? Like Phil Rowe got him out of there at the very end of round 3 in a crazy fight, just a fight of the year candidate. He did, Phil Rowe did stick his fingers out there and eye poke him there, right? But so we've seen him knocked out. So, but I think overall he's like when he reacts well to punches. We've seen him knocked out, yes, but he doesn't like wilt, and it's not the first one, and he's not always just getting shut down immediately. He's fought a bunch of studs, Razak Al Hassan, and Vicente Luque. That was an eye injury, doctor stoppage that goes down as a TKO loss. Phil Rowe, that was a crazy back and forth fun fight. Robbie Lawler just crushed him in 39 seconds, but it was just an incredible job by Robbie. I don't know. So maybe I'm just flat out wrong saying that he has some level of durability. Maybe he's just completely washed and it's going to get knocked out, but I don't think so. I think we probably see an Alex Morono decision here. Yeah. Yeah, it's worth mentioning Morono. He's often winning and then gets clipped, so he was able to win the close decision over Court McGee before that, but it happens a lot. Like this is actually a rematch. And in their first fight, Morono was cruising, putting it on him, and then just got clipped. But again, I don't think that Nico has that power anymore. All right, next up, Mickey Gall versus Bassil Hafez. So Mickey Gall came into the UFC a 1-0 prospect. His second pro fight was in the UFC, which is pretty wild, pretty unusual. They gave him the journalist Mike Jackson, and then they gave him CM Punk, and then they gave him Sage Northcutt. And he finished them all, rear naked chokes, all in under 1.5 rounds. Then he took a huge step up to Randy Brown, and ever since then, he's been not great, right? Lost to Diego Sanchez. That's not a great look. Lost to decision to Mike Perry, stud. He hasn't really beat anybody good. But previously, he was just a jiu-jitsu guy who had to get you to the ground, or he was a complete fish out of water on the feet, and that's not the case anymore. His striking's looking better, specifically offensively, because there's still those defensive liabilities that have got him hurt in the last couple fights. But it continues to improve. He does look more comfortable there. He was actually landing on Malat, and he wasn't just sticking and moving afraid. He was like comfortable to exchange fire with Malat in the pocket, which is really impressive. Until he got blasted like 3 times, and then on the final one, just couldn't do it anymore. So ends up getting absolutely face planted. It was a ridiculous, thunderous left hook with Malat, with his back against the cage, as Mickey was pressuring forward on him. But ballsy, gritty. He took some huge shots there and kept coming forward. And so you can see that he's getting more comfortable in the striking, just maybe overconfident, because he should have done something different after getting blasted multiple times by Malat. Before that, he lost the decision to Alex Morono. Alex actually dropped him. Morono dropped him early in round 1 with the jab. Round 2, Mickey was looking aggressive and having some nice moments, but he looked pretty tired. It wasn't like a grueling fight. It was just good striking, and he was the one pressing forward, but not a grueling fight. And Mickey looks pretty tired there. So, the last fight that we've seen go longer than 2 minutes, Mickey was looking tired. That's not a great look. He definitely got even more irresponsible defensively in the striking with his head straight up in the air after he was getting tired. Some wins over low-level guys before that. Hafez, we remember him as the guy that's fought Jack Della Maddalena and went the distance, and a lot of people, including us, had Jack inside the distance parlayed up to high heaven, and of course it goes to the decision there. I think Hafez could have won that decision. It was close. He really likes the arm triangle when he gets on top. He's got good wrestling, and at distance, he's not terrible. He's got good power. He sits down on everything. He throws viciously, and he has no fear. There were so many times in that Jack Della fight where he was content to just exchange in the pocket, throwing really heavy shots while Jack was throwing heat at him. There's one time where Hafez threw a kick and fell down, so he wants to get back to his feet. He rolls backwards, backs up right against the cage. But it was a nice job by him getting to his feet quickly instead of reaching down and bending forward and being vulnerable. It allowed him to get to his feet without getting blasted. But then once he was on his feet, his back's against the cage. And I'm sure Jack Della's mouth was just watering, coming in, ready to unleash hell on him. And Jack did. He threw an incredible combo, but Hafez kind of rolls with him, lands a couple of his own. It was such a ballsy moment from Hafez there. Like anybody else, I feel like would have ducked under, tried to clinch up and shoot, do anything they could. But Hafez, like he faced fire with fire multiple times. And unlike Mickey Gall, who got KO'd brutally, he Hafez has a chin, has power. He gains the respect of the opponent. Some really impressive striking exchanges. Like when we think back of that fight, it's like, oh, well, he went 3 of 20 on takedowns. He had over 6 minutes of control time. We imagine like an Aljo versus Peter Yan fight where it's all north-south, just nut hugging. No, like there were so many incredible striking exchanges in this fight. And then when he would get Jack Dilla down, he had some success holding him down. So really impressive performance there against Jack Dilla. Jack Dilla has continued to shine since that fight, which he was, you could say, lucky to win. Pre-UFC, Hafez, was not fighting great competition, but he was looking good, throwing heavy hooks, getting finishes. He did have a split decision win over Anthony Ivy, who is a former UFC fighter, and he had a split decision loss to Evan Cutts, but then he came out and finished Evan Cutts by round 3, right hook KO just a couple fights later. Diverse submission game. He's actually never landed an arm triangle, but I mentioned that he likes the arm triangle. I might play an arm triangle prop on this if it's juicy enough on BetMGM because I think he's going to hurt Mickey on the feet. He's going to be on top. And when he gets on top, he gets to half guard and he starts immediately looking for that half guard, that arm triangle position from half guard. I'm really confident here that unless Mickey like absolutely face plants from getting knocked out, this fight's going to end up on the ground with Bassil on top in half guard. And I guarantee he's going to be fishing for an arm triangle. And I think he could get it, especially if Mickey's hurt from a club and sub type situation. So, I feel like I can just see that fight pretty clearly. Pretty confident pick on Bassil. All right, Jocelyn Edwards. She's like plus 170 right now, and I kind of just want to bet it because she's always coming through as an underdog. She's always in incredibly close fights. This was the other one I mentioned. The first write-up was like, Edwards always comes through as a dog. I don't know how this fight's so wide. Like her tall frame really helps her defend takedowns. This fight's going to be on the feet at moments, and she's going to get the better of the moments on the feet. The judges love her somehow. So since then, money has indeed come in on her. I think Ailin's probably the rightful favorite. I think Ailin's going to be able to wrestle. Ailin really gassed last fight. Like Ailin's going to have to win round 1 and round 2 dominantly with wrestling and then survive round 3 here. I think she can do it. I'm tempted to play Jocelyn plus 170 or maybe like the spread prop on Jocelyn, Jocelyn plus 3.5 rounds. I realize not everyone has that. I'm talking about a lot of props that only like BetMGM and DraftKings customers have. Apologies, but I think it's a very close fight with Ailin probably getting the slightly better of it, and she still might lose because Jocelyn's got some favorable decisions for sure. All right, last fight of the night. Short notice, Mitch Raposo. We saw him fight Jake Hadley on Dana White Contender Series. We saw him on Tough. He lost to Leodvig Shinalinian and Sholinian, apologies. And I think we know Mitch's game pretty well here. Actually, quite familiar with Raposo. He's got good wrestling, but he's just not really comfortable on top. He doesn't like to actually he doesn't land great ground and pound or anything because he's afraid of jiu-jitsu, it seems, in a lot of situations. So let's see here. Yeah, apologies. I think it was the Flavio fight. Yeah, apologies. Yeah, Flavio Carvalho. He ends up knocking him out brutally. It was a sick knockout. But early in the fight, he had Flavio on his back. He was on top of him and just gets up. So he likes to wrestle, but it's questionable. It's questionable why you'd even take Flavio down if you're just going to let him up. Like Flavio did have a couple of submission victories in his career, but why even take the guy down then? So it's like I don't exactly know what Mitch's game is. He kind of just likes to back up and strike. He's always on the back foot, always on his bike, looking to counter. He's got nice straight shots. He's got good striking, but it's like he doesn't really have a game plan in there. He goes for takedowns, doesn't like being on top. So I don't know. I'm not overly high on him. I know some folks are trained with them, and so I know he's a stud. I know that he's good. Like I've been familiar with him for a long time, but I wish he just had a more clear goal in there. I wish he had a more dominant skill one way or the other. He's well rounded. He's fine at everything, but he's just not great at anything. He's had weight cutting issues before. He had to fall out of a fight on the regional circuit. And this is short notice, as I mentioned, because Andre Lima was going to fight Niamjar Gall, Tumen Dembarel, and this guy's pretty good. NT is pretty good, but he fell out. So we got Mitch Raposo on short notice here. I actually thought this line was going to be wider. I thought Lima would be like minus 400 or something wild, and I might play Mitch at those odds because I'm actually not overly high on Lima. Pardon the scrolling. Last time out, we bet Ego Severino spread, Ego plus 3.5 rounds, which was going to hit. I think Igor won round 1, and he was on his way to winning round 2 until he bit Lima. Really ridiculous. But, we know Lima's a stud. He's got great striking, lots of diverse punches and combos, including to the body. He's very smooth, great range management, and decent power. And he's got great powerful kicks as well. Decent ground game. He threatened the knee bar on Victor Santos, but we've seen him lose dominant position as well against Igor Talon. We've seen him his takedown defense look okay, but again, Igor was able to get him down. So let's see. Lima also threatened an omoplata twice. I thought that was interesting, and I don't know that I'll ever end up getting to an Andre Lima omoplata exact method prop, but you got to keep that in mind. He's also looked for a Kimura before, so he uses those to advance position, get off his back, and you got to love that. So lots to like about Lima. He's a cool guy, got a great positive outlook and great head on his shoulders. He's got an awesome new tattoo of the bite mark on his bicep, and I know a lot of people are rooting for him, and I suppose I'm not a hater. I like the guy. I just think that he's too easy to take down to get a significant number of wins in the UFC. Mitch Raposo might be the guy, but as we talked about, I think these submission threats from bottom from Andre Lima would make Mitch just stand up and let him up, and Andre's going to batter him on the feet for sure and have the better forward pressure. So confident pick, Andre Lima. Appreciate y'all being here. Let me know your thoughts. Oh, so let's do the a giveaway. So Michel Pereira signed UFC trunks. Shout out to Michel Pereira, one of the most exciting fighters in the game, out there saving dogs in Brazil, from the flooding, and thoughts to everyone affected by that. Just thought it was super cool. Michel Pereira out there doing everything he could, and including helping lots of people and saving lots of dogs that were just stranded and in a very difficult spot there. So love Michel Pereira, always been a big fan, but even a bigger fan now, and glad he's on such a devastating run of finishes. He's freaking awesome. So signed UFC Michel Pereira trunks with the certificate of authenticity, got them from an auction. How many significant strikes in the main event between Dustin and Islam? Let's take a quick look at their recent fights to help you decide. All right. So in the last Islam fight, only 28 significant strikes. In the first Islam fight, 127. Against Charles Oliveira, where he finished him about 8 minutes into the fight, there were just 49 significant strikes landed. Against Bobby Green, short notice Bobby Green, 23 significant strikes. 6 against Dan Hooker before he Kimura'd him. Thiago Moises, 74. All right, so hopefully that helps you get the range for, it really just depends on how long you think the fight's going to last, obviously. Poirier versus Saint Denis. Saint Denis was outlanding him big time. 78 total significant strikes in that fight. Against Gaethje, 68. Against Chandler, 81. So higher volume for Poirier here. We can see, what is this, 131, 63, 77. Gosh, over 300 against Dan Hooker. So put it in the comments. You might not be able to comment right now. I think you have to have a channel to be able to comment on the live chat, which is stupid. But as soon as this is done, you'll be able to comment how many significant strikes are landed in the main event. The closest to correct answer gets the Michelle Pajeda signed UFC trunks. Don't edit your comment because I can see that you edited it, and I can see what your first answer was. So make sure you don't edit your comment. Appreciate y'all so much. Good luck. We got UFC back. Thanks for being here. Love y'all. Happy Memorial Day.